Hello, welcome back everyone. Roby1 Mobile Robo in the research room, and today I'm going to do a video on St. Paul's Church of Palma because I was out there doing research before on old world buildings on some business, and I noticed this church. Plus I used to go through this town all the time to pick up my buddy Dave, and on this church, and I believe it's right there, there's a window that is a man in a spacesuit on a tricorder window. They said some of the windows on this were done over at one point in the history write-up, and it was supposedly founded in 1830. And founded is a very limited word because if they established it, it would say established. This church was found, I believe. It's a mud flood building, and you can see down there at the bottom, you can see all parts of the mud flood windows. As the next time I'm out, which will probably be later on today, is I'm going out here and checking this out and showing you people the church. And it's also the church that led me to the graveyard that's over in Warren, Mass, as the handler told me that the graveyard that's Pine Grove on the other side of St. Paul's is also the graveyard where Molly Bish was abducted through. And I learned that after this. That guy was also the handler. He said, I believe, for 15 years, and I forget how many years he said he worked at this church. I think it was almost 10. So he could have been the handler at that point. And in Dr. Sarah Stein's book, it says one of the handlers was actually questioned. The graveyard workers over there. I know other people that were questioned too. A guy who did power washing on the parents' house was also questioned. Okay, but I don't want to get too off subject. St. Paul's Church of Palma has been prominent in the greater Palma area since 1860, founded proclaiming the grace message of the Apostle Paul and its inclusive message of the early Universalist worship. It has compassionately ministered to the community's needs for over 160 years. At St. Paul's Church, our vision is to provide vibrant workshop through inspiring music, guided meditation, thoughtful prayer, growing community, and moving sermon from the Bible and other sacred inspirational writings. Our hope is to minister to ever-changing life of our community by bringing compassion and love to God to those who are in need. And then it goes deeper into the people who are involved. There's the church, and that cornerstone right there. The gentleman who is the handler of this church said that the Masons, because a Mason owned it at that time, and I'm wondering if a lot of Masons own churches, that's a time capsule for the Masons inside that block. And you can see the mud flood windows right there, the fancy stained glass windows. These are the people that are behind it. Santa with some kids. Some attributes in the write-ups, all the different activities and groups you can be involved with. I'm just showing you this before I go into the history. This is today. The minister, board of trustees, church organizer, music director, children's education director, office administrator. Alright, so St. Paul's Church had its earliest beginnings back in 1830 when Christian Universalist preacher Thomas Whitmore of Cambridge spoke to small groups in Palmer and Brimfield. The Universalists understood that God's unconditional love was for all, and that for all a place in heaven was provided. The teachings of the Apostle Paul in the New Testament were highly influential. St. Paul's formally became a church in 1860 and 1879. The Gothic-style church of building of Munson granite was built. It was an extraordinary church, along with the more recently built fellowship hall and Sunday school classrooms that we worship in today. And we'll go into extended history, and I'm just going to, there's the church, what it looks like inside. There's pillars in there. The handler also told me the pillars in the cellar were really huge, and he wondered how they got down there, but would not allow me to go down there and see them. Here's a nice picture of it right there. It's 130 feet, probably the height of that, it says in the article. Goes into the food bank and whatnot. And then right here, this is the actual web page if you want to email them. So let's get back. Now you know what it looks like. The Gothic style church. There's one in Worcester that's real nice, and it's not gray stone, it's red stone, the sandstone, but that's in the future. Alright, so here's the history, and there's an old picture, and it looks like at one point the top of the tower was brick. Alright, so it talks about how it was built in a year here. Alright, so St. Paul's Church of Palma was organized on May 28, 1876 as a Universalist church. Universalism first came to the Palma area in the 1830s. Thomas Whitmore, a radical Universalist and disciple of Jose Ballou. Whitmore was on the wing of a faith known as ultra-universalism, which held that sin was its own punishment and that once freed from the flesh, all people now union with God. At the time, this was a truly radical idea, and Whitmore and Universalism received much verbal abuse from established clergy in the area, and early followers met with much resistance. Finally, in the 1850s, Universalism gained a toehold in the area, and in February 1860, a Universalist society was formed in Palma. Now, when I heard that name in the Jay and Silent Bob movie, Universalist Church, I thought it was a joke. I didn't even realize the Unitarian existed. Still, there's a great deal of opposition from Orthodox clergy, whose opposition, combined with the pressures of the Civil War and Reconstruction, took a toll on the society for a period. Services were discontinued. However, even then, outstanding liberals, see what it says? Even then, outstanding liberals from outside town were drawn here. Ralph Waldo Emerson and Quillen H. Shin helped chair Universalists during those dark days. Although activity slowed down, they did not cease, and the birth of St. Paul's Church was just around the corner. And then it goes into how it became the name of it. We know that the late 19th century biblical analysis pointed to the strong Universalist strain in Paul's epistles. Encouraged by this, St. Paul's Universalist Church sprang up throughout the country. The Massachusetts State Convention was very much behind an effort, so probably had no small role in naming our church. Alright, so this is it right here. St. Paul's Church was off and running. In February of 1877, less than a year after its organization, St. Paul's Church called Charles H. Eaton as its first minister, and by 1878 land was acquired on which to erect a church building. On June 12, 1879, the first cornerstone was laid. Construction was done by Flint Building and Construction Company with Mr. France as architect. Mr. France, our Gothic-style church is built of Munson granite, and it measures 111 feet by 80 feet. There are two towers, the tall 130 feet, the smaller 80 feet. To this day, the church building is one of the most beautiful edifices in the area. Gloriously colorful stained glass windows. The service of the dedication of the new church building, the service of the dedication for the new church building was held on May 12, 1880. So that's saying either that was halfway in construction when they had the service, or they're saying, you figure June 12, 1879 to May 12, 1880. That's exactly 11 months. It's just weird how it's on the 12th. So that's pretty much telling you the church was built in less than a year, which I don't even believe. And I can probably promise you there's no pictures of the church being built, and most people don't ever factor this in as elites acquired these things. And how did commoners get paid back then? Shekels, because the dollar bill wasn't put in until President Lincoln. So paper money was not available at that time. Alright, so it says it was remodeled. The sanctuary was remodeled in 1954, just a few years after the 75th anniversary of the founding of St. Paul's Church. In 1957, the house at the corner of Converse and Central Streets was purchased by the church in the summer of 1960. Construction began on a hall. Expansion to the house dedication to the newly constructed Fellowship House took place in August 1961. Fellowship House remains an excellent parish hall, religious education facility, meeting space, and office area, which currently is also utilized by a number of Palmer area nonprofits. Alright, so that was when they started getting the Fellowship Hall doing, and to me, when they talk that way, it sounds like it's in a defense. The pictures that are in this history book, I can't wait to see them, because I guarantee there's fudge factors in them. 1961 was a great year of significant change for St. Paul's Church and its congregants as the current-day Unitarian Universalist Association formed through the merger of the Universalist Church of America and America Unitarian Association. Initially, the merger was not looked at favorably by most of the members. In a straw vote taken by the Universalist Church in 1960, St. Paul's vote overwhelmingly was against the merger. However, it did not withdraw from the newly merged denomination. In 1962, affirmed its ties by joining the Connecticut Valley District of Unitarian Universalist Association, which were probably more liberals, and with a St. Paul's member serving as the second president of the district. Ties were further strengthened. St. Paul's Fellowship House housed the district offices for several years, beginning in the late 1990s, carrying forward those ties. And then it goes into the beginning of the early 2000s. St. Paul's embarked on multiple phase restoration of the church building and the Consolation of Columbia restoration. The beautiful Munson granite blocks were given some much needed TLC with included foundation work, repointing of the granite edifice, as well as major repairs, restoration and upgrades to the bell and bell tower. Major restoration of the church's beautiful stained glass windows was also undertaken during this time period. In the 2023 restoration of the church's interior, plaster repair, painting, and refinishing of wood floors was completed. Today the building stands as strong as ever did, lending its elegant beauty to the Palmer landscape. Notes and excerpts from the dated history book, St. Paul's Church of Palmer, Massachusetts, 1876-2003, compiled by Robert G. Faulkner and Joan Marcy Allen, May 2003, updated January 23 by Stephen Wood Sousa. And there's an older picture of it. That's probably from the history book. And another one. Alright, there it is. We've learned about the Universalists and how liberals were behind that whole movement. And we'll see you soon in Palmer.